Are you making progress on your financial goals and your budget goals? If you don't know the answer to that question, you may need a frugal financial checkup. Hi, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
From Under the Median. Every week on this channel, we talk about frugality and living with a spirit of joy and abundance on a budget. Hey, if that's your thing, make sure that you give us a like and give us a subscribe. Now, this program is a direct answer to a viewer question. A viewer wrote and said, I know that you've talked about doing a mid-year budget review, but I need specific help. I need to know exactly what I need to ask myself about my budget, about my goals, and about my income. So we decided we wanted to give practical, boots on the ground advice to you today. And in order to do that, I actually created a workbook. Now we're going to work our way through the workbook on this program. And you don't have to have the workbook, but hey, if you want to work along with us, it's got all the questions that we ask ourselves during a mid-year budget review. It's absolutely free. There's a link in the description of this video. So go ahead, go grab that workbook and have it all pulled up on your screen so you're ready to work through it with us today. Now, there are actually 15 questions, believe it or not, that we ask ourselves every time we do a budget review. So the first question is, Larry, we're talking about doing a mid-year budget review. Can they only do it halfway through the year?
Oh, no, you can do it as often as you want. You can do it once a month if you feel so led to do so. So as far as frequency, no, that's up to them.
That is entirely up to you. If you are going hard and going strong towards some goals, you may find it really helpful to work your way through these 15 questions on a regular basis. Now, there are 5 questions related to your income, 5 questions related to your goals, and 5 questions related to your budget. Now, I also in the workbook, like the next to the last page of the workbook, I left you a page to take some notes. So just in case we say some things that give you some inspiration and you want to take some notes, there's even a place to take notes in the workbook. All right, we ready to go?
All set.
Let's first talk about income. When we do a budget review, now we only do them twice a year. So every 6 months, Larry and I do a budget review. But when we started budgeting, we did these reviews a lot more often than that. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is about your income. First income question is,
how much money have you generated over the period of time that you're looking at? In our case, it's 6 months. So that would include bonuses, your tax return, side hustles. Maybe you sold some items, some interest that you've made on your bank accounts, overtime, and refunds.
Now, so we're telling you to put it all down there in paper and write the total down. You want to know everything that you have brought into the house in the period of time you're reviewing. In this case, we're talking 6 months. Now, why is that important? Why is that the first thing they need to know?
Well, you've got to know what you're bringing in so you know what you have to work with.
Now, the next question we want you to ask yourself after you have that figure down in black and white, which is sometimes kind of scary, is how do you feel about that figure? When you look at it, do you think, yeah, we did better than I thought we did, or I thought we were going to do? Or is it something that leaves you going, we could have done a little bit better? No matter what your actual visceral reaction to that number is, you really need to think about it because, believe it or not, your emotions are directly related to your success factor when it comes to budgeting and when it comes to goals. So make sure you don't leave that part of the equation out. It's good to sit down and look yourself in the eye and say, how do I feel about this?
So basically, is that figure more or less than what you expected? Okay, point number 3. Have any specific circumstances impacted your income? Like, let's say, an illness, a layoff, any number of things can impact that.
Is there something that happened that either made that more or less than you expected? Now, here's why it's important to even consider if something happened to make it more. Because the next question you're going to ask yourself is, can I expect this to continue? For instance, Larry at one time was working a lot of overtime. And we began to budget on said overtime.
Yeah.
And over time, with the overtime, we thought, yeah, maybe not such a good idea. So that answer that we gave ourselves during one of our mid-year budget checkups was really important to us, because we looked each other in the eye and said, A, do we want to budget on this? B, do we want to consider this semi-permanent? And C, do we really want it to be semi-permanent? Is this really taking away from other aspects of our life, and do we want to cut back on overtime? So that's why that question is really important. Even if the figure knocked it out of the ballpark and you're super excited, you still have to ask yourself the question, how do I feel about it? And is this a circumstance that is going to continue or should continue?
Well, I had a medical event that affected that decision. So I had a heart condition that caused us to reevaluate how much overtime I was working.
Okay, so the fourth question we want you to ask yourself in regard to income is, do you expect any significant changes in the next 6 months? Now, you're going to put in that blank X number of months, whatever the next time period is that you're going to be reevaluating your budget and your goals. So if you're going to reevaluate it in 3 months, then you're going to put 3 months in that blank on the worksheet, okay? So whatever that length of time is, you are going to ask yourself whether you expect anything else to change.
Yeah, you might be up for a promotion.
Yes.
Or you might have applied for a better job. So you might have an increase in pay coming up. It's hard to tell sometimes ahead of down the road what's going to be coming, but it's good to kind of plan for those things if you have an idea.
And the fifth and final question about your income you want to ask during a financial checkup is, can you increase your income? And if so, we gave you 4 options, and we want you to circle the ones that apply to you. Larry, what are the 4 options we gave them for increasing their income?
Well, one we just talked about, more overtime, a second job, a side hustle, or you can sell items.
All right, so those are the 4 ways we gave you that you may want to increase your income. We're going to move along to 5 questions that you want to ask yourself about goals. And a reminder, just in case you tuned in a little bit late tonight, we actually have a free workbook that goes right along with this video, and we're walking you through the workbook step by step. So you can get your free copy of the workbook. There's a link in the description of this video. All right, 5 questions about your goals.
Yeah, what goals would you like to meet in the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
Yeah.
And you can list those in that area.
So
given there.
we want you to prioritize, look at all of your goals and bring the most important ones right up to the top, because you will pay the most attention to that which is right at the top of your list. So what is it that is super important to you in the next 6 to 12 months? List the goals.
Okay, the next item is, how do you feel about the progress that you've already made on goals?
Now, we will tell you from experience that you have to look at each goal separately. There'll be some goals where you're like, yeah, doing great on that, and other goals you're like, we just didn't get as far as I thought that we would in this period of time. It's important to be honest with yourself about that, because that's the only way that you're going to figure out whether you need to change the goal, change the amount of time you've allotted to the goal, the amount of money that you're putting toward the goal, or the importance of the goal. Those are the 4 things you want to look at when it comes to goals.
Okay, the next thing you want to do is list your top 3 goal wins.
Now, why is this important? Because emotionally, remember when we talked about income, I said there's an emotional component to your income. There is also an emotional component when it comes to goals. As a human, everything that happens to us is either inputted into our brain as a positive or a negative emotion. And sometimes the things that happen that aren't quite the way we expected come to the forefront. What you are doing is forcing your brain to sort of rewire itself and say, wait a minute, there are some amazing wins that I have had in the last 6 months when it comes to my goals. Here are the top 3 ways that I am super excited about these goals. Bring those right to the top and it will propel you forward in meeting those goals.
Yeah, I guess you could call that positive feedback.
Absolutely. Question number 4 when it comes to your goals is...
Based on your current progress, are there any goals that you need to change or reprioritize?
Now, remember we talked about that in question 2 when we talked about how do you feel about your progress on the goals. I told you there are going to be some goals that maybe you didn't make as forward progress as you thought that you would. Those are the goals you're going to want to look at and say, do we need to reprioritize them? Do we need to take them lower on the goal list? Bring them farther up to the top if they're super important? What changes are we going to make that are going to impact our progress on that goal? So do that for each one of your goals.
Okay, and the 5th item is you need to list 3 ways that you intend to positively impact your ability to meet your goals over the next 6 months. And remember to be specific.
When you write a goal and you put it in front of your face, statistically, you have a 70% greater chance of meeting that goal. So what we are literally asking you to do is to write down your sub-steps. So you've got a goal. What steps are you going to take in the next 6 months to make forward progress on each of your goals, and make sure you're being specific and make sure you give yourself a deadline. All right. Here are 5 questions. We would love it when you do a mid-year budget review if you would ask yourself about your budget.
Okay, are there areas that you are consistently overspending in your budget? If so, you can list those on this worksheet.
It happens to all of us. Now, I will tell you what we do. We write out each of our budget categories and what we have spent in the last 6 months. Then I literally take a highlighter, and I love to use like stoplight colors. So green means go. It's good. All right. So if we have some budget categories I'm super pumped about and I want to share it with him, I will highlight them in green highlighter. But if there are some areas I'm a wee bit concerned about, I'm going to highlight them in yellow because that's a caution color, right? So Larry, when we get ready to do the mid-year budget review, he's like, can I just see the colors before we get started? Because he wants to see how many yellow items and how many green items are actually on the budget review. So I will tell you, and this is probably the best mid-year budget review that we've had in a really long time. I had 3 green areas and only 1 yellow area. So we were super pumped about that.
And no red areas.
No, there wasn't anything that I went, oh, holy cow, that went way, way over what I thought that it would, okay? So that's what we want you to do. We want you to look at your budget and say, am I overspending? If you are, write that down. Make a list of all of your budget categories and then go through with those highlighters. And if you're concerned about it, highlight it in yellow if you are consistently overspending. List your top 3 on the worksheet. Number 2.
Number 2 is overall, do you feel that your budget is meeting both your physical and emotional needs as well as helping you spend less and save more money each month?
All right. Remember I told you every single thing that we go through, your income, your goals, and your budget, I was going to have one of those 5 questions that dealt with your what? Emotions. And this is that emotion question when it comes to budgeting. How do you feel about your budget? But more importantly and specifically, how do you feel that that budget is meeting your physical and your emotional needs? All right. And number 3.
List your top 3 budget wins. That would be the areas in which you've made the most progress in.
Remember those green light areas? Yeah, go through that budget list of categories and highlight every area that you are rocking it in green. Those are green light budget categories because you want to encourage yourself. These are the areas we're doing well in and we are making progress in. Because once again, there's a whole component of feeling really positive about the direction you're going and the wins that you've had that will keep you moving forward. All right, question number 4 is...
List the top 3 areas that you would most like to improve in your budget over the next 6 months.
Now, these may or may not be those areas that are marked in yellow, okay? Remember the areas that you're going to mark in yellow? Those are the areas that you're consistently overspending in. So most likely, those are going to be the areas you would also like to improve. But there are some areas you may be just doing okay in. You're not consistently overspending a whole lot, but you look at it and say, I think I could do better. Those might be some of the areas that you want to write down in your top 3 areas you would like to improve. And question number 5.
Number 5 is list 3 ways that you intend to make those budget improvements.
Now, we're not going to let you off the hook. You know that by now. After you say these are the areas we want to improve, once again, just like with the goals, we're going to have you go through and break it down and say exactly how you're going to improve each of those areas of your budget. Now, those are the 15 questions that we personally ask ourselves during a mid-year budget review. And once again, remember, you can do this any time of the year. It doesn't just have to be in July every year. If you're really wanting to make some progress on some goals and they're goals you're really going after, go ahead and repeat this process as often as you need to. And remember, we have a free workbook that you can download that lists every single one of these 15 questions. It's got blanks for you to fill in all of your answers, and it's absolutely free. The link in the description of this video. We hope that you found this super helpful. Give us a thumbs up and a like. We'd love to see your comments in the comments section, and we'll see you next week. If you don't know exactly where you stand, no, that would take 2.
Maybe you should be sitting.
Or sit. I'm sorry. I kept trying to think of what to say. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.